to protect the security of our fellow citizens. For the duration of the national emergency, that the statutes of Directive 10-289 shall remain in effect. All copyrights shall be transferred to the federal government. All wages and other forms of income are hereby frozen.
It's all happening so fast.
I won't be a slave.
Hey, Michelle.
Yeah?
Do you know what they should have called Atlas Shrugged Part 1?
What?
Atlas Smug. Oh! And do you know what they should have called Atlas Shrugged Part 2?
What?
Bullshit, because that's exactly what it is. This movie is awful. Oh, that was Michelle for just a brief moment. I want her in here for this, but...
And I'm...
Thanks, Michelle. Oh, our ratings just spiked. But yeah,
I think they did.
but for the actual review, it's going to be me. Hi, I'm Aaron, and joining me today, who has not seen the movie but is going to sit through my rant, is Mike.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, so I did it. I bit the bullet. Anybody who knows me knows that I enjoy laughing at bad movies. I do, and probably my favorite bad movie to laugh at is Atlas Shrugged Part 1. I'm pretty sure it's still on Netflix Instant Queue. It's based on the Ayn Rand novel of Atlas Shrugged, obviously, and this movie has had a long history to it. It has been attempted to be made into a giant, big blockbuster film numerous times. In fact, about 10 years ago, back towards the... might even been the late 90s. It was in the late 90s, early 2000s. It actually had been picked up to be this huge movie, $50 million budget. It was going to star Angelina Jolie. However, the guy who held the rights to the movie refused to let it happen. And the reason why he refused to let it happen was because the book of Ayn Rand, the book of Atlas Shrugged, ends with, I kid you not, a 60-page long, one-paragraph speech. And he would not let the movie get made unless that speech was included in the movie in its entirety, word for word.
That seems really ridiculous.
Yeah, so ridiculous is... Yeah, let's go with ridiculous. Let's go with ridiculous, alright. Because I've already said bullshit at the beginning of the podcast. I can't overuse that term. Because I know I'm going to use it numerous more times in this review. So anyway, what happens is that he held on to the rights until he could find someone who would be willing to make the movie the way he wanted. Problem is, no one was willing to do that because it was a horrible idea. So eventually, oh god, I think it was 2 years ago, he just said, you know what? I'll make it myself! And so he put up $20 million budget to film this movie. It was called Atlas Shrugged Part 1. And the movie is about these two billionaires. It's Dagny Taggart and Hank Reardon. Now, Reardon is the head of Reardon Metal. And Taggart is the head of Taggart, I can't remember the name of the corporation, but it's a railroad industry. And basically, it's about the two of them kind of starting to work together because Reardon discovers adamantium. He basically invents a brand new type of metal that's super light, and nearly indestructible. And Taggart wants to use that metal in her railroad tracks. Now, at this point, I should point out that this movie is set 4 years in the future, in 2016, where gas is $37.60 a gallon, and unemployment is at I think it was 15% or something like that. And the entire movie is basically about... It's not really even a story. It's a message. Ayn Rand was... She wasn't libertarian, because libertarians still care about other people. Ayn Rand had the philosophy in life that, screw everybody else, I got mine. That was basically what her idea was. And a lot of people think, well, that's an incredibly insensitive portrayal of her beliefs. That's not what she thought at all. She basically believed that if you make money, then no one else should have any kind of an influence on that. And basically, if you make money, you should be allowed to do whatever you want. Because you've been proven to be successful, and if you've been proven to be successful, you should basically be able to, take advantage of others. Let me just give you some examples, because I can feel myself about to start ranting. In the first movie, there's a scene where Hank Reardon, whose stepbrother is basically every weaselly henchman from every film you've ever seen. He's Igor, he's like the Bond villain sidekick, he's Salacious Crumb from the Star Wars films. He's basically all those rolled into one, and he works for charitable organizations. And he goes up to Reardon and asks him for like $20 million, and Reardon says, alright, I'll write you a check. And right after he writes him a check for this, the Salacious Crumb dude basically says to him, you don't really care about the less fortunate, do you? Right after writing him a check for $20 million, by the way, he says, you don't really care about the less fortunate. And Hank Reardon goes, no, I don't. Now, in any other movie, this dude would be visited by 3 ghosts in the middle of the night, who would tell him the errors of his ways. But instead, this is a movie that's basically saying, no, this guy is right. You should not help the less fortunate. The less fortunate, if they're homeless, then it's their problem. If they don't have a job, it's their problem. That's basically the message that this movie is trying to produce. And so throughout the entire film, Hank Reardon and Dagny Taggart are basically just shitting on the poor and on, any organization that attempts to help the poor. And the message of the film is, they're the ones who are right, and you're the one being the asshole if you're trying to actually help others. But basically, they weave this into a story where basically all these captains of industry, all these scientists, all these, people behind Fortune 500 companies, they all start disappearing. Some guy in a fedora and a trench coat with a shadowy face visits them in the middle of the night and just says, we like what you're doing. We have a place for you. And then it will just pop up on the screen, the person's name, and says, disappeared on this date. And all these people leave behind whenever they disappear is the message, who is John Galt? So the first movie is all about Dagny and Taggart trying to find out who is John Galt, where are all these people going. They find out that John Galt used to work for this business, and he basically invented a machine that would provide unlimited free energy. Basically, he created the perpetual motion machine, but the government would not let him put it out there because then it would shut down other companies, and that would be unfair. And
okay.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so you got it set up. That is movie 1.
Alright.
Movie 2, I really need to tell you what movie 1 was, because movie 2, they fire every single actor who was in the first movie and replace all of them, but still give you, no backstory. So even if you saw the first movie, you'll spend the first 10 minutes of this movie going, who the hell is this person? You could have watched the first movie and went right into this one and had no idea who these people were.
So was there a reason for that?
I've been trying to figure that out, because they fired the director too, which all I can think of is I can find no reason for it. They cut the budget by half, but there was nobody famous in that first one. There were more famous people in this one than there were in the last one. The most famous guy from the last movie was the guy who played, Darwin in X-Men First Class, which, by the way, I just kind of have to point this out. I don't want to call this movie racist, although there is one very racist scene in it. But every single actor who they got, they tried to make them look like the people from the last movie, so you could kind of still go along with it. In this movie, there was only one black guy in the first movie. It was the guy played by Darwin. His character's name was Eddie, I believe. For anybody who knows him, he is a skinny, short guy with big bug eyes, looks like he's in his early 20s. They replace him with a dude clearly a foot taller than him, shaved head, an extra 100 pounds on him, and in his late 40s. Every other actor, they tried to match it up. The one black guy, they were just like, yeah, you'll do. I'm not calling it racist for that. I'm calling it racist for another scene that I might get to, if I remember it, because there's so many other crazy things that happen in this film. But basically, the second movie is about the economy just keeps getting worse. And so the government has decided that now they're going to institute, you know what, hold on. I've never done this in a movie before, but I was watching this thing and I actually had to pull out a card that I had on me, like this 8x10 index card, and I just had to start writing down every piece of crazy thing that popped on the screen. I ran out of space halfway through the movie, but I want to get the exact name of this. Hold on a second, I'll be right back. Okay, so the economy keeps getting worse. The government is going to do anything it can to try and help, which I'm saying that with quotation marks because in this movie, one of the main messages is the government is obsolete and cannot help. And they do not try and hide that at all because in this, the president, although it's not the president, he's like called head of state because that's one of the things about this movie is that it tries to say that like in this 4 years that we haven't seen, somehow the president overtook the rest of the government and became the head of state as his title, so he's unelectable and unimpeachable.
So, like a dictator?
Basically.
Okay.
And how did that happen? Who knows? It's never explained. Anyway.
Huh.
Oh, and by the way, they don't try and hide this at all, how evil they're trying to make the government look, because the guy playing the president in this, the last role he had was playing the devil for 2 seasons on Reaper. They are not trying to hide anything. But anyway, the government institutes Directive 10289, which says numerous things. I wasn't able to write them down quick enough because they were just coming so fast with this crazy shit. But for one, it says that for the public good, nobody can quit their job and nobody can be fired. Every company has to produce the same amount of material that it did last year, this year. Everybody has to spend the same amount of money this year that they did last year. No one is allowed pay increases. Oh, and this is the absolute craziest part. No wages are to be paid. So, yeah, let's back this up. You have to spend the same amount of money this year that you spent last year. However, your employer is no longer allowed to pay you, but you can't quit, so you have to keep going to your job.
Yeah, oh god, my brain.
Yeah, exactly. This is the thing about this movie. I know a lot of people are going to come on here and say, well, you're just some liberal talking about, you're just coming out here and attacking it because you think this is preposterous because you don't understand, you don't see it happening. Listen, when you look at one of those films at any other film in which there's like some kind of a dictator government, like some kind of a tyranny, they take control of power for reasons. And they make actions for reasons. Granted, they're evil reasons, but they make sense. If a government comes on and they start putting people in secret prisons or putting people in, mind-washing institutes or something like that, they're doing it to make a grab for power. They're doing it to, shut down people. They're being evil, but the things they do support their evilness.
Right.
This government, they try to make them just look stupid and, they're basically... I mean, they make them look evil, but they make them look evil to the rich people, and it's no, the poor people, that's the ones that we're going to be evil for. Which I don't understand that. I don't understand helping poor and being evil. But nothing in Directive 10289 seems like it's going to help anyone, and they say we have to institute this in order to save the failing economy. There's not a single thing in this that makes it sound like it would work to save the economy.
Yeah. That's...
But yeah, one of the rules is even no business can produce more material than it did last year. Well, then how does the economy recover? Your rules make no sense in this film.
So what are their... I mean, obviously, what are their consequences then? If they, if you didn't spend the same amount of money that you spent last year, your company didn't produce the same amount of product that they did last year. I mean, or is that just kind of
it's never explained at all. It never says the only time in which you kind of see somebody break this law is that Hank Reardon, he's invented adamantium, as I said. And the government has now come in and said, well, you can't sell your material to anyone else. You have to sell it to us, because the government wants it, so after you sell it to us, then if you want, you can sell it to whoever is next in line. And Hank Reardon says, well, I'm not going to do that, so he is put on trial, and they say that they can put him in jail for 10 years. That's the only thing that it seems like anybody can get in trouble for. That's the only time that actually shows, like, consequences. However, the court scene where he is put on trial, maybe my favorite dumb scene of any movie this year. Because first off, this is supposed to be like the Supreme Court, but it looks like it's filmed in a college, university biology lab. It's got those like big stairs going up with the 2 rows going down,
right.
all concrete. Like no decorations at all to make this look important. There's like just 9 people sitting up there in rows behind desk at the base of this. Like I said, just this big concrete auditorium. It's exactly what I studied college biology in. And the people, they put him on trial, and Hank Reardon just starts saying, hey, if you don't like what I'm doing, then why don't you come and stop me by force? And this is one of my biggest problems with this movie is that, and yet one of my favorite things about the movie too, is that when it comes to directing, this is the most rank amateur hour job I've ever seen, because everybody's expressions are always, gasp, like there's no subtlety at all. Like when he says, why don't you come and stop me? You see like the entire audience just kind of going, like everybody like staying up and applauding at it, and like they're just completely in shock. And so they say, alright, fine, we're putting you in jail for 10 years. And then the entire audience also stands up and applauds too, which just makes me think that maybe they screwed up a cut.
Yeah.
But they were like, screw it, never mind, just keep going. However, they say, alright, fine, we're going to put you in jail for 10 years. But because of all the good you've done and your high standing in society, we hereby dismiss all of your punishments, and you are free to go.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus Christ.
Like, there's the scene where the judge turns to the other one and says, we can't put him in jail, they'll tear us alive. But we have to punish him, we can't let them know that that we're going to let this stuff happen. So they put him in jail, and then immediately, within the same sentence, dismiss his sentencing and let him go free. By the way, spoiler alerts if anyone cares.
Damn it. But
yeah, oh god, I'm looking over my notes here, and I was writing in the darkness, so I can't make out all of them, but I can clearly make out at some point I wrote most dickish smiles ever. I don't know what that's in reference to, but I'm pretty sure it's accurate. But yeah, the sad thing about this film is that they cut it from 20 million to 10 million, and that they have more famous people in this one than they did in the last. Like, they've got Derek Bader in here, which a lot of people might not recognize, but he played Batman on the most recent Batman animated series. And so the entire time I was watching this, I was just like, oh, Bruce Wayne wouldn't be behind this. No.
No, not at
Batman, no.
Yeah, it's... so then what... Oh, God. I don't know. Then the whole point of that courthouse scene is just wasting film time.
There's no point to it. Yeah, exactly. It's to fill time, which is a movie... There's no point in filling time, because it's an hour and 52 minutes long, which to me normally is fine by a movie. And I was watching this, and originally I was thinking, you know what, this movie, it's actually better than the last one. Like, the last one would just pause, and like I said, like, there would be those scenes where, like, they would go, you don't really care about the poor, do you? No, I don't. And whereas with this one, it was a little bit more subtle with the way that I was sneaking the message in there. So I was like, you know what? I don't agree with the message, but I'm going to give it credit for that. It's doing that most. And, like, like I said, I had a guy, when I wrote a little review of the last Atlas Shrugged, came on and tell me, well, you just didn't really understand it. Listen, this is just bastardization of the beliefs and everything. You just need to, you just don't understand what they're saying. So I was watching this, and, like, I was getting, like, angry at some of the stuff they were saying, but I still stood there and just went, you know what? I'm judging this mostly just on myself. I'm, like, judging this a lot on just what my personal beliefs are, and I should judge this on, on, like, the filmmaking of it. However, halfway through this movie, I just went, wow, this is kind of like Newsroom, except for conservatives, and that's when it hit me. I tore into Newsroom like crazy. I ripped Newsroom to shreds, because I just hate it. I thought that show was just so lazy with the way that was just forcing propaganda out there. The difference is, I actually agreed with the propaganda in Newsroom, at least. In this, I disagree with it, but I have to realize, wow, if I'm willing to tear into the thing that I agree with, I should be willing to tear into the thing I disagree with on the exact same equal level. Which is, so at that point, I just went, you know what, all rules are out. I am not cutting this movie any more slack, and good, because it just got worse from there. I mean, like I said, it was a little bit more subtle with the message in the beginning.
Right.
But, yeah, it just turned into the most rank amateur hour. It almost seems like the guy who owned the rights to Atlas Shrugged was just sitting on the sidelines the whole time of this movie, and, like, halfway through it, he just shoved the director out of the way and just went, you know what, people aren't understanding what you're trying to say. Here, I'll show you how it's done. Because there's the most melodramatic camera work in the second half of this film. Like, there is a scene where they're talking about shutting down, one of the railroads that Taggart owns, and they have this big boardroom scene, and the boardroom scene starts off with a bunch of old, fat, balding white guys in suits and briefcases walking in incredibly slow motion with this dum bum 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 soundtrack behind them.
Oh, God.
And in the beginning, I was actually thinking, you know, that soundtrack is actually pretty effective. It's not a bad soundtrack. Until I realized they were going to play the soundtrack throughout the entire movie. The soundtrack is the most manipulative thing in the world. At the end of this movie, I'm not going to reveal what happens at the end of this movie, but the end of this movie ends with Dagny Taggart looking up at something, and it's like a big revelation has happened, something very important has happened. She looks up at the camera, and all of a sudden, lights shine on her. The golden light shines on her. A soft wind blows through her hair in slow motion, so her hair suddenly starts lifting up. And this angelic starts blazing over the background. It's the kind of thing that, like, even, like, film students don't do when, like, film students are trying to be manipulative.
Right.
Like, even, like, you know, Intro to Cinema 101, like, they teach you, this is terrible. I'm just going over the remaining, like, things that I saw, like, Courthouse, which I actually wrote, maybe the craziest scene in the entire movie. Slow Boardwalk, let's see. Oh, in the previous movie, also, Dagny and, Reardon, Dagny Taggart and Reardon actually hook up while Reardon is married, which, you know, I didn't judge the movie too much for that, simply because I've seen plenty of films where there's a protagonist who cheats on the wife, and in this movie, the wife is incredibly dickish because she belongs to a charity, and everybody who belongs to charities are dickish, I guess. But,
Right.
But yeah, in this movie, the wife finds out he's been cheating on her, which I had just assumed that as soon as he started cheating, he left the wife. No, apparently they've stuck together for like 6 months while he's been cheating on her on the side. And he's still the protagonist in this film.
Nice. Makes sense.
And there comes a point, there comes a point in which the wife finds out he's been cheating, and so she goes up to him and confronts him with this, and he goes, "Yeah, you're right, get out." And that is the perfect summary of, like, who this movie is for. It's like, it's for the guys who support the guy that cheats on his wife and then tells his wife, "Get out of my house and leave all your shit behind."
Oh.
But before I go on, I'm just gonna finish up with this, because I know I've been ranting for a while in this movie. This movie, the last 10 minutes of this film, get to Birdemic level bad. And I swear to you, I am not exaggerating on that. This film gets to Birdemic levels of bad. Because the film ends with Taggart flying a jet to go and stop this scientist guy who she's hired from leaving and going with John Galt to the secret society of disappearing millionaires. And it stars a jet race. Like, she is following after this jet, weaving through mountains. Except did I mention that they cut the budget in half on this, and yet they still had more famous people in this one than they did in the last?
Right.
They literally, like, ran out of cash at the end of this movie. This looks like a cutscene from a video game 10 years ago. I mean, this looks like a Dreamcast video game cutscene, is what this is. It is so crazy, and I'm not... Literally, I can guarantee you it will come on Netflix Instant Queue. This is the kind of thing that, like, you have to just watch the last 10 minutes of this. This is going to be one of my favorite bad movie sequences, the chase and that. Between all of that, I want to give this movie, like, a D. But there's a movie that is just this bad, like, it's not bad enough to, like, garnish, like, an F or 0 stars, but I've said numerous times whenever we've done reviews on these little podcasts that we need to come up with our own, like, little rating system.
Right.
Because just saying a D does not really encompass the feelings that go into this movie. So I'm gonna say D is for dog shit on this one. This movie's dog shit. That is the rating I'm giving it.
Excellent.
And, you know, if you want to see a bad movie, it's almost, like, if you just love watching really bad movies, it's almost worth the price of admission. However, let me warn you, I saw this on a Monday morning, like, super early on a Monday morning, and this movie has been tanking at the box office. So I thought, well, clearly no one else is going to be there, so I'll just be able to laugh my ass off the entire time. I get there, and it's a small theater, but the theater was packed.
Really?
So I was sitting there the whole time trying not to laugh because I just kept telling myself, if these guys hear you laugh, they may actually kill you. This may...
Wow.
So yeah, so I was just shaking so I was sitting in the front row of this thing, shaking like a mental patient, because I just kept trying to laugh, and I was like, don't do it, it's like, it's almost like being in a horror movie, and like, oh my god, there's someone right behind me, don't make any noises.
Right.
Don't make any noises, but the movie's just too stupid, I must laugh, no!
Oh, God.
All right.
So,
okay.
Dare I ask, is there going to be a part 3, or was that
Oh god,
it?
I'm glad you brought that up. I have to almost respect them for this. Just because of the balls this took. Because, yes, this movie, you know, let me just say, once again, to reiterate, the philosophy behind Ayn Rand is that if you can't make money, you don't deserve to go on. If you make money, if you don't make money, then you failed and you don't get another try. That's it for you. First movie had a $20 million budget, only made $5 million. So they lost 3/4 of their budget. According to Ayn Rand, they should have just stopped right there. However, they decided to make Atlas Shrugged Part 2 with a budget of $10 million. And they had been saying the entire time, like, even when the very first movie came out, they said, okay, we're splitting into 2 parts. 2 parts. That's what we're doing. We're splitting into 2 parts. It gets to the end of this movie. It gets to the big scene where she's looking up, the angels are going, oh, and then it just says, end. Big, bold letters, end. I went, that's pretty ballsy for them to end it there. That's pretty gutsy. I'm pretty impressed. And then slowly it fades in, of part 2.
Oh.
And I just went, oh, fuck you.
If you saw Atlas, knees buckling, arms trembling, but still trying to hold up the world with the last of his strength, what would you tell him to do?
Where are they? Anyone who could make a difference.
I'm sitting next to him.
I've only got one thing left worth fighting for. This.
If you feel you have the right to use force against me, bring guns.
Time is running out.
Who or what is John Galt? Is he even a man?
Or an idea.